Hi guys, Togi here with a new video, and this video will be a best healer spec in PvP 10.2.5 Dragonflight, and this will be in all PvP, right? So 2v2 is accounted, 3v3 is also accounted, Soul Shuffle is accounted, RBGs is accounted, and we are even going to talk about world PvP. I played every single spec, except Holy Priest. Like I didn't really play too much Holy Priest, but I've talked to a lot of them these past days to get a lot of info that I'm going to give right here, right now. The same for the melee and the range tier list. It's kind of a long tier list. We're going to talk about in depth every single spec in 2s, 3s, Soul Shuffle, RBGs, and also World PvP. This kind of helps you to decide what you want to main for the remainder of Season 3, but also Season 4, because I think like on a design level it will not change that much, except if the balancing changes are going to be that drastic, but I don't really believe in that. It feels like they're already working for War Within, which again kind of sucks for the current players in Dragonflight. I feel like right now it's only like PvE land kind of thing. They don't really talk too much about PvP. I kind of have some worrying thoughts about PvP going into Season 4, but we'll have to see. Now, again, we are going to account more about 2v2 and 3v3 and also in Soul Shuffle. RBGs will be also thought in my final rating, but I do think 2v2, 3v3 and also Soul Shuffle is more important right now. And we're going to talk about every single spec in depth, so hopefully you do watch the whole video so you understand the placement and also the opinion that I give out about those specs, so you can actually form your own opinion or your own comment or your own thought process behind what I say right now. So again, it's a long video, so do grab something to drink or something to eat, or watch it in the background so you can make something to eat, or you're going to clean the house or whatever. You can also watch that video like this. So let's start right away with the first healer I'm going to talk is the Holy Priest. I think personally the buffs to Holy Priest kind of made them way better than what they were before. That's for sure. I think there is like some untapped potential in Holy Priest where they just need like one buff, which is basically mana, and it would be like overtaking a lot of spots in Soul Shuffle 3v3 and other like game modes in general. I do feel like people are overlooking Holy Priest because it's easy to overlook. I think also Holy Priest is not an easy spec to play and to learn, because it's really reversed healing, right? The lower the target, the better, because you're going to overheal a lot with Serenity, for example. And you don't want to throw a Serenity at someone that is 80% HP, because you know you're going to do 3/4 of the healing as overhealing. And overhealing is something that was already bad in PvE, but in PvP it's even worse, because you're actually effectively using too much resources to heal someone that is not needed, that resource. Then you have also Mastery with the ticks and how it works and such. So it's tricky. It's very tricky. Although you would say Disc Priest is probably harder to play, it's mainly because they have like more of a atonement side of things, where you have to deal damage to heal, and you need to know when to deal damage and when to use like passive, like your passiveness to actually heal throughout the matches, for example. But Holy Priest, let's talk about 2v2 first. I think 2v2, I think personally that they are better than what you would think, because the extra CC is interesting. You like doing a follow-up fear is way easier on the Holy Priest than with a Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest going for a fear often results in yourself getting feared, or yourself getting cycloned, or yourself getting lassoed, or whatever your enemy is. So it feels like you're punished for that, while for a Holy Priest you can actually do a lot of CC chains. I do feel like they are better than Disc Priest right now in 2v2. I personally think they're top 3 maximum. I think top 2 in my mind. I think Resto Druid is top 1, everyone knows that. But I do feel like they are the second best healer currently. Although you would not see that on the ladder, I think it is just like trying to catch up on what is already happening on the ladder since the beginning of Season 3. It's like for sure never going to overtake Disc Priest as fast, because like Disc Priest has like a whole season of that, while Holy Priest became actually like better and better over the course of the patch. So in my books, season like 2v2, they might be very very good. In 3v3, I think they are very good because they are actually giving you an extra CC option. Depending on who you're facing, I think Holy Priest is way easier to play into matchups. For example, you can easily CC a resto druid, while as a disc priest, trying to CC a resto druid is nearly impossible, to be honest. You can do some damage as a Holy Priest. You have some great CDs to use to actually stop damage, like with Ray of Hope, or you can also jump into the sky if you feel like you're going to be drained. You have a lot of options to actually play around. I think the only thing that you're lacking is really a great damage reduction ability, which you don't have, like for example a Disc Priest has, or even a Resto Druid with Iron Bark, which is not fantastic, but it's still there. I think Holy Priest kind of needs that, but not every single healer has that, so I can understand why they don't give it to them. I do think like 3v3 they have a lot of great comps to play, and I do feel like RMP, for example, it's way better with a Holy Priest than with a Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest kind of gives you a safety net because again you have pain suppressions, you have like multiple CDs that you can use. But I do feel like Holy Priest with the extra CC can actually give you the extra CC needed to land kills that you probably would have worked a bit further down the line. I do still like think RMD is better with Druid, but that's just an indicative of how strong Druids are right now compared to like Holy Priests. But I do think that they're good. Just is very hard to pull off and like very specific comps. And you don't want to play like Holy Priest with a melee cleave, for example. So you don't have like the leisure of being able to play with any comp, but yeah, you have like very specific comps where I think Holy Priest kind of fits a bit better than Disc Priest right now. In RBGs, I think with like Prayer of Mending, kind of jumping on everyone, with your AoE healing, that is somewhat okay. You can fit well. But the issue is with Holy Priest is you don't have like the same utility as a Disc Priest. You don't have the same utility as a mistweaver. You don't have the same healing throughput as mistweaver and preservation evoker. I think you're in contention with resto druids, with resto shamans, and holy paladins in general. Depending on maps, you can do very well. I think you have also some maps where you would just be like completely bad. In my mind, I do feel like Disc Priest is way better than Holy Priest because of atonement healing and how they have like dome, they have double pain suppression, ultimate. I think ultimate penitence is not that good in RBGs because it just goes on everyone basically. It's not like you're going to have focused healing or focused DPS on someone or like one target or two targets. But I do feel like again, Disc Priests are a bit better than Holy Priest in my mind. And then in Wotlk PvP, I think you can do very well, but I do believe they are not that good because they are very CD heavy, and those CDs in Wotlk PvP, it doesn't really matter too much in my opinion. So because of that reason, everything combined, I would say 2v2 they are great. I think they're probably like around S or A, depending on how you see the healer meta, I would say. In 3v3, I would say they are probably around A, something like that. In Soul Shuffle, I didn't talk about Soul Shuffle. I think Soul Shuffle, they're kind of terrible because of how they function and how dampening kind of ruins your only thing that is there for you, which is throughput. And having no throughput as a Holy Priest is worse than any other spec, basically, in my mind. You do get very quickly as well. I think depending on matchups, your Prayer of Mending doesn't have that much impact. For example, if you're playing with a caster and with a melee and the caster is trained and the other caster is also trained, you have too much space between those two targets. It's not going to jump to their target, so you will not have that much ping pong healing that you could have on other like comps, for example. So that kind of tells me that it's not that good, and I think it just is like very much a throughput like meta right now, where you need to have like enough healing, enough mana, and also some CC capacity to like sway some matches. So Soul Shuffle, I think they're worse than in 3v3. I think 3v3 they are way better in Soul Shuffle. than a Soul Shuffle. And RBGs, they are probably bottom 3, bottom 4, I would say, healers wise. So with that in mind, with 2v2 and 3v3 like weighing for a lot, but Soul Shuffle 2, I do feel like they do deserve like around B tier. B tier is not bad. It's not like necessarily bad. It is a good tier for a healer, but I do feel like if you want to understand the tier list, S tier is like God tier. Like it means that they're like perfect in everything. A tier means that they're meta in everything, basically, except like a few things where they are not like very good. And B tier means that like they're good in one thing or two, but the rest they're like very meh or very average or very much like an afterthought. And C tier means that they are quite bad on everything. They have like one redeeming factor, but it's not really weighing too much compared to the other like game modes that there is. I do feel like Holy Priest right now is B tier, and I think it kind of shows also with how they play and how many you see right now on the ladder. We already like 11 minutes, but I think I want to talk in depth about those specs. I think it's important, and hopefully you do like that. Now let's talk about Disc Priest. Disc Priest is surprisingly good and bad depending on situations. Again, you're going to hear me a lot about that, but I think in 2v2, Disc Priest is probably top 3 healer. I think maybe top 4, depending on how you see the game and who you're facing. I think Disc Priest, Ultimate Penitence can win games like on a whim. If you are playing with someone that has CC, you CC one target, which if, for example, it's a polymorph, it's not going to hit the polymorph. So then you can just use your Ultimate Penitence on the main target, or if you're playing with a rogue, you can blind the target and then you can do your burst, for example. Or you can fear one target and do the same. So you have a lot of like offensive power, and then you double pain suppression. It gets reduced by shielding. Rapture very strong, Dome very strong. Your mana is actually very good if you take the right talents and you play it the right way. Your damage is very good as well. Some matchups will end you with like being like top two DPS in the whole lobby, which is very impressive to be honest. It's very annoying to get like trained by someone like a DH, for example. I understand that, but I think you having that much power like offensively kind of makes up for the defensive squishiness that sometimes you could have as a Disc Priest. You have plenty of good comps. Discuss this in my comps video for 2v2. But I think if you play with one of the more meta specs, for example, rogues like an outlaw rogue, you could play with a DH, you could play with a feral druid, you could play with a lot of specs that can actually get you wins. The only thing, the black spot that I have with Disc Priest is the CC is not easy to do, and you will have and you will need your DPS to help you with that. Also, sometimes you don't want to play like super close, so having fear is something you want to do but you cannot do, kind of thing. And in general, I think in 2v2 you can really do well, but you have to play very aggressive. If you don't, it becomes very hard to win games. 3v3, I think it's sometimes very frustrating because you don't have the throughput and you have to play full mastery, which not everyone wants to do that. I think it's very difficult to enjoy that. I think Disc Priest, the fun factor of it is being full haste and being able to dish damage and to be able to do some healing through your dishing damage with Atonement. I think the issue is that your throughput is not impressive compared to other specs. You have to compensate with a lot of damage, and with that, you have to play with specs that can actually survive a bit of damage and that you can actually like relax a bit. For example, RMP, although I think Holy Priest is better in my books. Like RMP with a Disc Priest gives you also a lot of time to deal damage and a lot of time to use CDs whenever you need. It also helps you with fears. Like again, if you have like a polymorph or a stun on the target, you can walk up and then fear, and you don't really have to like overcommit too much. I think in general the difficulties of Disc Priest is they are just not bad. They are just getting overthrown by better specs right now. Like for example, Resto Druids. And if you're facing a Resto Druid as a Disc Priest, you kind of hope of having like a great teammate that knows how to deal with the resto druid. But the same for soul shuffle. If we talk about soul shuffle, I think they're not fantastic because of the matchups that you have that are very, very bad. I think it's very matchup heavy. I do feel like they're better than Holy Priest though, but it's understandable that people get frustrated by playing versus like Resto Druids, for example. It feels like you don't have the impact that you should have, but because of the threat of a cyclone, for example, you cannot really push in for a fear. It's really hard to do so, except if the rest of the druid kind of wants it. They're normally not being able to be caught by a disc priest. Um, I think disc priests are fantastic, but where they shine the most is probably in RBGs with atonement healing, the damage, the CDs that they can use. It really fits the game mode. Um, there is just one like button that is not functioning that well. It's ultimate penitence, but you can choose whenever you're going to do that. You don't need to do that in big team fights. You could just do that, for example, in a big 1v2 or in 2v2 or whatever situation there is to actually play more of a small scale fight. I think disc priests are actually fantastic in those fights. They have good throughput because of no dampening. They can actually like really focus on that throughput, but I think it's very hard for them to shine the better healers, for example, mistweavers and preservation evoker in RBGs. But with all that said, I think disc priest is one of, if not the best, world PvP healer because of the damage that they can do and the CDs that they have and the many CDs that they have. You can play like a solo kind of disc priest if you want to, or you play with a group, and then they will just love you because of the atonement healing that you have and the CDs that you can actually produce and use for your team. But again, world PvP is not really like counted too hard in the tier list. But with that in mind, 2v2 being good to great, I would say. 3v3 being alright. Currently, I think they're just getting outpaced by other healers. Soul Shuffle, where you are also alright, but getting outpaced by some healers. And RBGs being like fantastic. I do feel like Disc Priest is just a bit better than Holy Priest. And that's not like saying that they're really just like this, because we have to count all PvP. But I think currently they're getting outpaced, and I do feel like they're just like one tiny bit better than Holy Priest. And I see already a lot of like eyes roll, and that's normal. But do get a reminder that it is for 2v2, 3v3, Soul Shuffle, and RBGs. So you have to understand that currently the ladder doesn't really show what's up with Disc Priest. Disc Priest currently is not in the best spot because of the outpacing of other specs, because of how more gear kind of means that you have to do more throughput. Also, more stamina means that your damage is a bit less relevant. You have a lot of things that are actually working against you, but you have saving graces which are actually good CDs, and you have damage which can sometimes factor in the games that you're going to win or not. And I think in general you have alright survivability compared to other healers, but I think the issue that you have is that you're overly reliant on the fact that you have to win games very fast. If you try to win games in dampening, like in very late dampening, it becomes very hard to actually have the impact that you should have compared to a Resto Druid or a Mistweaver or a Resto Shaman or a Holy Paladin. I think the issue is that well, that's not an issue, but I think you have to fight versus like better specs in general. So you have to compensate with your own skill. And again, I cannot count your own skill as a factor into a tier list. Anyways, let's talk about Resto Shaman. I want to talk about Resto Shaman. I think 2v2 is a fantastic bracket for you. You can play very aggressive. The issue I see for Resto Shamans, and that are often the case, is that you are highly trainable. Once your Irvin wall is gone, they are going to switch onto you because it's easier to like eliminate a Resto Shaman. And you can often just cleave the other DPS together with him. Your CC is fantastic. Lasso into Hex or Hex into Lasso is a very solid option. You can also just like static field totem into an Earthbind, for example, and to just keep the healer away, you can do that as well. You have ways to be very annoying as a twos partner, but also you have great damage. Doing a lava burst of 120k is very noticeable, especially if you're playing with lava surge from your spec tree, which you should do in 2v2 to be honest. You can easily do a lava burst into an instant lava burst into a stormkeeper, for example, and then you can just blast someone. People just don't play super aggressively these days, but I think Resto Shaman is one of the specs that you can actually play very aggressively, and it kind of shows also on the ladder. I think 2v2, they are dependent on who you're facing, basically. Like facing a windwalker or DH kind of sucks for Resto Shaman, but if you're facing any ranged DPS, you're going to do very well. A few tips for Resto Shamans: you want to use your Earthbind on to the BM Hunter pets, for example, or Demology Warlock pets, or whatever pets you can actually do, because they will have to use a freedom or they don't notice it and they will lose a lot of damage. That's a outplay you can do in 2v2 that is very easy to do, and you don't need to do your Earthbind onto the players. So you want to do it on the pets, because the pets are the main source of the damage for BM Hunter and also Demology Warlocks. For 2v2 they're great. Again, I think in 2v2 they're very close to Disc Priest and Holy Priest, but I think the only thing that actually holds them back is being able to be killed and just like trained by any melee DPS. So it's very hard for them. 3v3, I think they're very good. I really think they're very good because they have a purge, they have great CC, their healing is very good as well. The more mastery you have, the better healing you will have, like throughput wise. Your CDs are very important and very impactful. And 3v3, often you will have Discord to say, look, I'm going to put Earthen Wall, do not move. That's something you can actually say that you cannot do that in Soul Shuffle, for example. I also think that Resto Shaman kind of fits the current meta, and you can actually win versus a good Resto Druid. It just needs a lot of effort from you. But what's good about Resto Shaman is you're not getting very quickly, and you can win games just because of your mana being very effective and very efficient. Now, depends on how much you have to do healing surge or healing wave, but as a whole, normally you should be able to win. You can also play very aggressive. If you have like a setup comp, you can prepare a Stormkeeper with a Lava Surge, for example. You can do a Lava Burst into a Lava Surge, into a Stormkeeper, into another Lava Surge, for example, into another Stormkeepers, and you can just like blow up someone. And if you play with the right setup, like talents-wise, you can actually do ridiculous amount of damage. In Soul Shuffle, I think the issue is it's very hard to see Earthen Wall. And I know some healers might just be like screaming and be annoyed by people that actually are not standing into Earthen Wall, but even I sometimes just don't see where the Earthen Wall is. You have to use add-ons, or you have to use weak auras, or you have to use voice to be able to track an Earthen Wall. And even then, if you're a BM hunter, you don't want to like always stand into an Earthen Wall. You want to kite damage, you want to avoid damage, or any other spec. Like realistically, that's why versus melee cleaves you can actually have a lot of impact with your Earthen Wall, and versus like casters you have grounding totem, which also has a lot of impact as a whole. So that's also a great thing, right? And in RPGs, I think they're not that good. The issue is their totems, they're not that good. I think the CDs are also not that good in RPGs. They are just not fit for this game mode in general. You have some throughput healing, but again, it's highly switchable as well. I think there is like a clear issue also with the mobility aspect. Mistweavers are also very mobile, Preservation Evoker as well. I think you don't have like a very a one button press CD that you can use to actually save the whole team. You don't have that. Your link is very bad as well. It gets instantly destroyed, especially with weak auras and add-ons that are like quite automated. I think Resto Shaman are quite good. In WoW PvP, you can actually have a lot of fun with your totems, a lot of damage, a lot of utility. I think they are one of the better WoW PvP specs out there, like healer-wise. With that being said, I said everything. I do feel like Resto Shaman are above those two specs. Now, let me explain again. 2v2, they're great. They're not like fantastic, but they're great. In 3v3, I think they're fantastic. I think they have a lot of potential that you would not see in solo shuffle, but you can actually see with like some good communication, you can actually win games just because of that. In solo shuffle, the issues are the totems and how ineffective they are sometimes because of like someone that is actually outraging your totems. And also, I would say RBGs, they're not that good, but they're not weighing too much onto the tier list. So I think 2v2 being great, 3v3 being great, solo shuffle being okay-ish. You could also be saying great, but depends on how easy it is to like play around, I would say. Like comp-wise and such. And RBGs, I think they are not that terrible. But that is just giving them an A tier spot in my opinion. Holy Paladin. So Holy Paladin is very particular where I think in twos they're not that good because of who you're facing currently. You have to preemptively bop like very fast. And the issue is with Holy Paladins, if you bubble or Divine Shield, like bop or Divine Shield too fast on yourself, you're going to get trained from A to Z to the end of the round, and that's not a great thing you have. Your damage is alright, but it's not like game changing because you have to sacrifice a lot of healing to actually have that kind of pressure. I think comps wise, you're also not going to be a king, right? You have to really choose your comps and being able to play around that as well. Yeah, 2v2 is tough, man. Your CC is fantastic though. So I think CC can make you win games reliably, but I think if you're just going to play for healing and for mana, you have to spam a lot of spells. So I don't know if you're going to like that bracket. In threes, it's a bit better, but again, it depends on who you're facing and with who you're playing. Best case scenario, you're going to have a field trip. If you're playing with like casters and you're playing versus melees, you can easily bop and easily like just win games because of that. I think one of the issues that I have with Holy Paladin is that for throughput you have to spend a lot of mana, and your bop is kind of useless versus casters. And casters is something you're going to see like regardless in 3v3. Like normally 1 game out of 2 you will see a Destruction Warlock, and Destruction Warlock just eats a Holy Paladin alive. And that's the issue. Not having decurs and such. In Soul Shuffle, you're better because of the amount of melees you can see, but also just in general, your CDs are high impact, and high impact CDs are very good in Soul Shuffle in general. What else? I think they are top 2, top 3 healer in Soul Shuffle right now, which is not a bad like thing to be. In RBGs, I think they're not that good. I think they're good in specific scenarios where you wanted the CDs that they actually can occur and like give it to you. But I think also it depends on comps. If you're facing like a very heavy caster cleave meta, like a lobby in RBGs, you're going to have difficulties to actually heal someone because your bop is insignificant. So with all that being said, WoW PvP, I think they're not that good as well because they don't have the damage that can actually make them compete. I think because I say like in twos they're like alright but not that great. In threes I think they're good. I think in Social Fall they're better than good in general. And in RBGs they're not like fantastic. I do feel like in my mind they're above Disc Priest. And like overall, I think if you are running right now a Holy Paladin, I think you might have a lot of fun in threes in Social Fall. Maybe a bit less in twos because it's very dampening, and dampening is not something you want to play every single time. But I do stand by it that it is like just behind Resto Shaman, I think. Mistweavers, like Fistweaver. Look, Fistweaver is going to be the windwalker icon because I think it's like 2 different specs, 2 different philosophies. I think Mistweaver is not that good, like the casted one. In twos, it's really relying on your teammates to do like great things. In threes, I think you're getting way too fast. And I think in general, it's easier to stop. with like a lot of good communication. I think in social shuffle you can win games, definitely. I don't think it's like fantastic though, but you can win games depending on what elo you are. It's going to be like higher or lower on the tier list. In social shuffle, I think it's not that great. I think the issue is in social shuffle is that you're getting out of mana very quick, like very quick. Like the resto druid could be 80% mana. But you have great CDs though. Life Cocoon is a great CD. Revival is a great CD, or Restoral, one of the other. Um, I think with all that being said, I don't have too much to talk about mistweaver. I think it's like a very vanilla healing spec. I do feel like they're just like in between Disc Priest and Holy Priest. I think it's not fantastic right now. Well, for example, Fistweaver, because this is a Fistweaver, is going to be very strong right now. In twos, it's like the go-to spec normally. In threes, you can play comps that are going to help you with healing, but also help you with actually landing like your shots onto the enemy. I think in general, you kind of have to not get kited by both your allies and your enemies. For that, you need communication, like really coordination, which is not always the easiest thing to do in threes. But again, in threes, you can actually have like a lot of like um, options. I think that's a word I wanted to say. I think Fistweaver is interesting. I think in social shuffle it's even more interesting, but I think in lowers like brackets, it's not that fun because people are like kiting you. Your DPSers don't know that they need to sometimes stand still so you could actually heal. You're easily stopped, but the higher you go, the better it is because people realize, look, you're Fistweaver, okay, I know what to do. I will just keep them close to each other so you can actually cleave them and heal us like very effectively. But I do feel like there are very close to a mistweaver, but for the different reasons. I think social shuffle they're great. Threes they're alright. Twos they're alright, but a bit better than the casted one. But in RPGs, I think personally I prefer to play with a mistweaver, not a fistweaver. Their CDs are quite big, high impact, and I want to put them higher, but then you have Disc Priest actually in contention of being like worse than Fistweaver, which I'm not really comfortable to say that. Resto Druid, I think I'm going to put them in S tier right now and then explain because I think there is no surprise. In twos, they're god tier. In threes, they're god tier. In social shuffle, they're god tier. In RPGs, they're meh, but I'm not going to judge them being meh on the tier list because else I would have to drop them to A tier, which in my opinion, they are not belonging to the. I think Resto Druid is really the best healing specs right now for the good and for the bad reasons. Um, it's very hard to compete with one. So again, if you want to win multiple ways in twos or threes in social shuffle, I would highly suggest to play a Resto Druid because I think it's very strong. Preservation Evoker is in twos very greedy, I would say, because you have to play very aggressively, which sometimes you don't want to. In threes, you can actually have some great comps. You can play a rogue mage with a preservation evoker, or a jungle cleave but with a preservation evoker. I think in general the issues are not really the mana, but the throughput healing is all via CDs. So if your CDs are not that good and you don't know how to use it, you're going to have insane trouble as a preservation evoker. But I do believe that you can have a lot of fun with it. I think personally, I found it very fun to play. I think it's very frustrating that you have to play around your CDs that are like basically just throughput healing, like your Dream Breath, your Spirit Bloom. You have rewind. You also have time alteration of I don't know how it's called. Um, but you have like a lot of CDs that are tied to your healing specs, so you have your healing spells. So you have to play around it and accordingly. In threes, like I said, you have a lot of aggressive comps. In social, I think it's very hard because dampening starts very fast, and your healing is basically just throughput. So either you win very fast, or either you're going to lose very fast because of the throughput and the amount of heal that you actually has to produce to actually see them thrive. But in RBGs you're fantastic. I think you're the better healer because of rescue, because of the AoE healing that you can produce that are actually very nice in like maps like, for example, Eye of the Storm. Yeah, I do believe like Preservation Evoker is really strong. But I would say because of twos being like not that good and very much a test, in threes they are good, but you're depending on your comp pretty much. And in social you are good. You're going to enjoy your time, but some matchups are going to be really annoying for you to actually score kills. And yeah, I think Preservation Evoker, they just need like a few quality of life changes to make it way better. For example, instant flame, like living flames, which is important, and that was from the first tier set in Dragonflight for Evokers. But with that being said, I do feel like they are worse than Holy Priest because of that. Because I think in twos they're meh, in threes they are alright, in social they are alright to great depending on situations and depending on how you see the game. You see that it's very top heavy, and again, B tier is not bad. I just think a lot of healers are like really resembling like with each other in power level, but you have like really a outlier, which is Resto Druid. I think Resto Shaman and Holy Paladin is alright and not busted, but I feel like again, once Resto Druid gets nerfed, who is going to be busted? Is it going to be Resto Shaman or Holy Paladin? So at one point it will be shaken up by a bounce patch, for example. But I look forward to. So this is the video again. Thank you for watching till the end. It's not always easy to make like longer videos because I have to talk a lot and I don't have a lot of energy because of being sick. But if I can actually like make people smile or help people with their main issues or alt issues, that's always welcome. Again, if you like those kinds of content, be sure to subscribe. If you like Season of Discovery, like Phase 2 content, I have the link in the description of my second channel where I do post the Season of Discovery, and hopefully I can actually be a bit more consistent there. But overall, again, thank you for watching, thank you for the support, and we will catch you all probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.